Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. Welcome to a very special bulletin, breaking news. We don't do this very often on the podcast. We like to keep things in order and keep things coming out on Wednesdays, which is an arbitrary day that we chose. And there still will be an episode on Wednesday, but we've got a special broadcast for you because we have got ourselves a Reading and Leeds lineup. Now, God, sorry, I'm a bit all over the place. I'm a bit rushed this morning and I wasn't expecting to be doing an emergency broadcast. So, Reading and Leeds, if you don't know, which you all know, super important festival to us, incredibly important to me individually. We have gone to Reading and Leeds every year in some capacity since 2009. And they've just announced their new lineup with a full rebrand and a new sponsor. So it's time to talk through that. This is opinion piece. I don't have any inside knowledge on the workings behind Reading and Leeds. It's been a long time since we've been privy to any internal information. So I just know what's on the poster. So first thing to talk about is Leeds a few days ago wiped all their socials and removed all their Instagram posts, which must be an annoying task if you're the social media manager, because I think you have to go through individually and remove each one. So I don't envy you, whoever's running the social media. There's a lot of reasons that I don't envy you. I think you've probably got quite a fun, but probably a job where you shout at your screen a lot because of people like me in the comments. So I recognise that. But so they deleted all the stuff, so we knew something was coming, and then they rebranded. They dropped like a new logo, which it's not a bad design, but it's not the Reading and Leeds branding is so strong, and obviously they know best internally, but it's strange to see a Leeds Fest announcement that doesn't look anything like Leeds Fest with its signature. They've kept the red and the yellow colours, but it doesn't have that really cool logo, and I think their logo is super important, and to just change that is an interesting take. Maybe it's to distance the festival from what it was for the last 15 years. I remember it had an amazing logo already when it was like the Carling Weekender, which was like the oval with the spikes around it. But then I really think they landed in a perfect place with the kind of big bold red and yellow font. But now it's a bit more kind of modern and futuristic, and strangely, not strangely, but something that I didn't predict is they've got a new headline sponsor, and it's Pepsi. So, and we'll get onto the bands in a sec, but Pepsi is a product that I don't really care for, but it doesn't really matter too much. Ultimately, the headline sponsor's there to do one thing: add a load of money to the festival. I did hear some murmurs that maybe the BBC aren't working with Reading and Leeds anymore. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. It came up in our Discord that someone else had heard it in our Patreon Discord. So this might be untrue, but if that is the case, then that'll be a lot of money leaving the table. But again, I don't know if that's true. So headline sponsor is Pepsi, which again, not very cool brand, I think. Like last year, was it Rockstar Energy, which is definitely more in line with. I know Rockstar Energy were trying to make themselves like the Red Bull's kind of synonymous with sports, and as is Monster. And I know that Rockstar were trying to really get himself kind of associated with the live music scene, and that's why they took on a load of festivals last year. Whether that's not worked and Rockstar are kind of giving up already, or whether the Pepsi money was just too good for Reading and Leeds to decline, is we'll never know. But thoughts on the Pepsi thing? It is a bit disappointing to me as someone who much prefers Coca-Cola. We're going to be having is Pepsi okay all weekend, and there's going to be like some like training, some messaging passed down to the bar staff where like you're probably not allowed to say is Pepsi okay. It's got to be like I've got a over there, I've got like a Leeds Fest staff handbook. Don't ask how I came into contact with that, or how I ended up getting that. But this was for last year, and it's got like kind of some of the guidance for the staff. And I can just imagine for this year, like there's some kind of top level sponsor message of like, don't say is Pepsi okay? Say something like, good news, we've got Pepsi. And no one will say that at the bar, but I know there's going to be some kind of corporate messaging when everyone's saying, can I have a vodka Coke? There's going to be some kind of like corporate messaging down from the top saying like, surprise and delight your potential customer by sharing the good news. We have Pepsi here. Like, you know, there's going to be some bullshit like that. Anyway, let's talk about the meat of it. As you can tell by the cadence in my voice and my kind of delivery today, I am in a good mood. I'm going to Scotland for a week today, and I'm really just kind of scrambling to get this out. That's why it's just me. But last night, or maybe yesterday or the day before, 3 artists posted Reading and Leeds teasers on their Instagram. People have been referring to these as leaks, that they're not strictly a leak. This is an organised and pre-planned social push from these 3 bands and Reading and Leeds. And the 3 bands that kind of self-announced were Chase and Status. I'm going to use the term bands here. Chase and Status, Florence and the Machine, and Fontaine's DC. So I was legitimately like upset when that news kind of came through. It sounds strange, but this festival's so important to me, as I said at the start, and it really is like, you know, outside of views and clicks and engagement and stuff, like just as a live music lover and a festival lover, this festival it has my heart, and the people that run it have made such a positive impact on my life. So to see these 3 artists kind of self-announce was underwhelming. Chase and Status, I'm a massive fan of Chase and Status. I think they're a brilliant group. I've seen them a load of times. I've seen them live with a band. I've seen them live without a band, and I've seen them do DJ sets. I've seen them at Download. I've seen them at Leeds. I just watched them headline Creamfields this year, and they are absolutely brilliant. They've got so many bangers. They've got such a wide range of guest features, and they're just brilliant. They really are good, and I do not have a bad word to say about Chase and Status. However, seeing them be announced as one of the 3 headliners yesterday had me concerned, because Chase and Status, they did a massive Milton Keynes sellout show, which will have been almost kind of like the litmus test for this booking, this and the Creamfields headline. But if they're headlining something like Reading and Leeds, they need to be doing 2 things, in my opinion. They need to be playing with a live band. Now, I don't want to sound too much like a boomer, but like it makes such a difference when your artist is playing with a live band, especially when it's an artist like this that a live band can really serve. You know, Fred again, I wouldn't expect a band with Fred again. He himself is the sound. But with Chase and Status, with an artist that have played with a live band many times before, and really does benefit just from the dynamics of a live band. So that's the first thing Chase and Status need to be doing to get my kind of seal of approval. The other thing is they need to be bringing the guests. So Chase and Status, as you know, neither of them are vocalists or lead vocalists. So they need to be having all the guests from their songs joining them for this victory lap headlining Reading and Leeds. And your Stormzy's and your Tiny Tempers and your Plan Bs are just as important as the way lesser known artists on some of their other big hits. But everyone needs to be there. And it can't be just a Reading. Like, obviously, Reading's in London. Reading gets the better special guests. I don't want to see Stormzy pulling up at Reading and we just get the backing track at Leeds. I mentioned I was disappointed when I saw these 3 announcements yesterday, but I think it's really smart what Reading and Leeds have done here, because they've announced essentially 7 headliners today for Leeds. 6 for Reading, which is really interesting. And they set my expectation that it would be these 3 bands that they had previously announced, the Florence, the Fontaines, and the Chase and Status. So to get now 4 extra headliners, it subverted my expectation in a really positive way. And I think that was a deliberate choice by their marketing. And I think I'm actually very happy now, because I was so worried about it being those 3. And we'll come on to more about that in a sec. And now we got 7, including like one of my favourite bands and one of the biggest stars in the world. So let's run through the headliners. We got Charlie XCX, Chase and Status, as mentioned. We got Dave. We got Florence and the Machine, Fontaines DC, and we got Ray. So, first of all, great gender mix there. We've got 3 women in the headline slot, which is cool. And while, the Florence booking is a bit wild to me, I just don't know anyone that cares about Florence and the Machine. I might be living in a bubble there, but I do try and live outside of a bubble. And it just seems like a bit of a wild card booking. I could almost imagine like a Mumford & Sons like in that same slot, and it's and it would evoke the same kind of vibe of like, okay, but like who cares? So that's my thoughts with Florence. Obviously she's a big artist. Florence and the Machine are a big band. Someone will argue, no doubt, they headlined Glastonbury, but they only headlined Glastonbury on a technicality. They're not like a Glastonbury headliner. They're certainly not in that realm, but they do play big shows. They are very popular. Florence as an individual is very, very popular. Dave, I need to get into Dave. I think I'd really, really fuck with Dave. He's just released a record called The Boy with the Harp. And Dave seems to be like a bit of a genius. What I've heard from Dave, I've really, really enjoyed. He's a super talented musician. And he's headlined Leeds before, so this is a repeat headliner. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the only repeat headliner. I think Florence has subbed under Kasabian, maybe, many years ago. Charlie XCX, great vibe for Reading and Leeds. The last time we saw her at Reading and Leeds, it was clear that she was on her way to headlining. And we saw her at Coachella last year, and it was pretty underwhelming. Then saw her at Primavera, and it was fantastic. So I have every faith that Charlie's going to smash it, and it's going to be really, really good fun. And do you know what? Not tons of guitar music amongst these headliners, and that's generally a complaint that a lot of people, myself included, have lent into. But I'd be really happy with a night of Charlie and a night of Chase and Status, and then a rapper. Dave's not just a rapper, but let's just categorize him as his kind of main genre there, I suppose. If that is his main genre, I'm not super familiar with his whole body of work. But I think it's really good booking. You just can't argue with Charlie, and she has so many bangers, and I would absolutely love to see, this will be her first proper headline set that I've seen, because she didn't headline at Coachella, and at Primavera it was the Sweat Tour with Troye Sivan, who was great, but this will be like distilled Charlie XCX, and I'm really up for it. I'm really, really happy with that. Fontaines DC, I was super frustrated when I saw the news yesterday. Look, good luck to Fontaines DC. I don't have a bad word to say about them, because I've seen them live and they just didn't do it for me. I don't mean that they're not, I don't have anything bad to say about them, and that's not me trying to like save face, or I know Fontaines DC have some really dedicated fans. I'm not trying to like protect myself from them. If someone was shit, I'd say they're shit, and I don't think Fontaines are shit, but I do think they're maybe a couple of years out from this. As soon as I saw Fontaines for the first time this year, I knew this band is going to be headlining Reading and Leeds. You can, when you've kind of, when you've been around the block as many times as we have, you can kind of point to who's probably going to be on the path to a Reading and Leeds headline, and Fontaines absolutely were there. But they are, in this context, the junior headliner. They're they are representing guitar music on this main lineup, and I just think it would have been great to have them in like a sub-headline slot with a major artist above them. You got to think, we don't have a Glastonbury in 2026. Reading and Leeds is known around the world. Like when you go around the world like we do and go to festivals, artists talk about Reading and Leeds. Artists mention Reading and Leeds because it is the authority when it comes to, like, you've got Glasgow, which is obviously like the biggest fest in the world, but Reading and Leeds, like they're bigger and more notable than you might think. And with there being no Glasgow, I would have loved to have seen not necessarily a Foo Fighters or a Muse, like they're easy options for me, but like a mega band, and then Sling Fontaine's just under them. Maybe leave in the comments who you think that could have been. Foo Fighters were the obvious choice, and there's going to be a lot of people disappointed that Foo Fighters weren't announced. I didn't think Foo Fighters were going to be announced. Their schedule doesn't seem to line up really. Some people were saying Muse as well for the anniversary of Black Holes and Revelations, but I don't know how good of a booking that really would be. But a mega guitar band with Fontaines underneath would have been a better shout for me. Good luck to them. I'm sure they're buzzing, and I know they've got a load of fans, and good God, their fans die hard. But I think it's a bit too early. And then you've got Ray, and I don't really have a lot to say about Ray, guys. I saw her at Reading and Leeds sub-headlining. She seemed really good. Matty Bride is very happy with this booking. But I just don't really have any value to add. I don't know anything about her. I don't know anything about her journey. I don't know really any of her songs. I've just seen her live, and she was good. Here is something cool. Leeds has got an exclusive headliner. Now, someone might correct me here, but the last time that Leeds had an exclusive headliner, it was maybe like 2002 with Guns N' Roses, and they were only at Leeds or only at Reading. I can't remember which one. Someone jump in the comments and let me know. But that was the last time I've seen an exclusive headliner to one of these events. I think it's a really bad move to add something major to one of them and not the other one. It objectively makes one way better. Leeds always has been better. It is way better in every regard, in my experience. But I do think that obviously this is a logistical thing, right? And they can't have an exclusive. So it's blah 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 blah. What I'm trying to say here is, Thursday night exclusive headliner at Leeds only is Kasabian. Now Kasabian are such a great time live. They are wonderful, and they lost quite a lot of momentum when they booted out their lead singer for good reason. As in they booted him out for good reason, not they lost momentum for good reason. And they became a smaller band again, but they've climbed their way back up to the top with Serge fronting them. And they're better than they've ever been. I'm a massive fan of the current Kasabian roster, and I'm a huge fan of Serge. I admire and respect Serge so much. I would love to shake his hand. He really is an icon, a British icon. And leading Kasabian is a job he was meant to do, and it's great seeing him as a Thursday exclusive headliner at Leeds. I think they can't have them at Reading because Reading's probably got too much of a noise restriction. It's in a terrible location, is Reading, and it would be good for. I would love to see like Reading and Leeds maybe look at fixing Reading, sling it somewhere with more. With less restrictions. I know it's easy for me to say on this fucking budget podcast here, but I would love to see maybe some, get Pepsi to sort that out. But so Reading doesn't get Kasabian, which is a bit of a shame because like that's kind of, one of the strong ones for me. It's going to be great. The annoying thing with Kasabian, which is a personal thing, is every time I go and see him, Serge is wearing something amazing, and I always try and then duplicate whatever he's wearing. And he always wears something really fucking expensive. So I'm then on the hunt for like a cheap version because he's dressed so well. And like, so we saw him at like Latitude, and he was like wearing this really cool like, outfit. I was like, I'm gonna buy that, and then I found out it's Burberry, and it's like £1,000 for the shorts. It's like, okay, what's like a cheap one? But anyway, I digress. Really, really strong with Kasabian. So we got 7 headliners at Leeds: Kasabian, Charlie, Chase and Status, Dave, Florence, Fontaines, and Ray. And again, comes down to subverting expectations. They set me up to be disappointed with Chase, Florence, and Fontaines. So anything I like that's been added is a lifesaver. It's really clever what they've done there. And Kasabian and Charlie really add and make that really strong for me. And then Chase and Status, who I already loved but was skeptical of their ability to headline if they were taking one of 3 slots. Now knowing they're taking one of 7 slots, suits me really well. So I'm very happy with that. We've got some exclusive stuff down in the also I should say every single headliner is exclusive in the UK. So there you go. That's something cool. There are a lot of these bands that you can see knocking about elsewhere. But in terms of festival headliners, they're exclusive, which isn't true for Kasabian, thinking about it, because they're headlining Transmit. So the wording there's a bit off. But so underneath them as the special guest, we've got Big Skepta. Now, Skepta's great. We've liked Skepta forever. Me and Raz in particular, we were deeply rooted in listening to grime music when it was almost in its infancy. It's one of the very few, if not like the only kind of musical movement where we can truly say like we were there like when it was really kind of starting, or certainly when it could get its way into like a year 8 lad's ears. And Skepta is always good fun. He puts on a great show. Super talented. He's got loads of bangers. He performs really well, which you can't say about a lot of the Boy Better Know crew. But Skepta really does. I think we're definitely going to see a Skepta headline in the not so distant future. Festival Republic hosts Skepta's own festival, which is called Big Smoke Festival. It takes place in Finsbury Park for the last few years, and they obviously know how much draw Skepta brings. And you know what? I would probably prefer to see Skepta in a headline slot. Maybe swap him out for Fontaines, to be fair. And I think that would sit better for me personally. It might objectively be a worse decision, but I think it would definitely sit better with me. Then we've got something called Somber, which I got to admit, guys, I feel a bit like Principal Skinner, but I've no idea what Somber is. It seems to be a solo artist. Released his debut album this year. I don't have any value to add. He's a handsome-looking 20-year-old from America, and I really just have no value to add. Skimming the lineup a little bit more, we have got Jade, who, that's the last from Little Mix, right? Jade Thirlwall. And that is her. Really do like her. She's actually my favourite member of Little Mix. I think she's brilliant. She supported Chapel, I think, this year when I saw her, and she was really good, and not but love for her. She's a big name, not quite as big as maybe she could be. I think the industry could have pushed her a bit more. In this world where, you know, Little Mix are the best selling girl group of all time, I believe. And Jade has essentially done like a Harry Styles, where she's been part of a massive like pop group and then gone solo, as a lot of the Little Mix girls have. And I'm surprised that she hasn't had a way bigger industry push to become like that next kind of Harry Styles size thing. But all over it. Reading's got some exclusive, like, load of names I've never fucking heard of, to be fair, aside from Chris Stussy, who we saw at Creamfields. And do you know what? If you're into your kind of Chris Stussy-esque music, I can tell you it was pretty good. I enjoyed him, but he's not at Leeds. This is really the first time where there's been a major kind of lean into, like, the two festivals are different. There is different stuff at each one. There always is different stuff at each one to some capacity, but this is the first time where they're kind of really leading with, like, okay, there's some sizable names that are on one and not at the other. The only other kind of thing that I want to mention, the only other kind of value I can add without rambling, is we got Kneecap on the lineup. Now, I was supposed to go and see Kneecap yesterday, but scheduling conflicts and what have you. And I'm really up for seeing him. I really do want to see him. I want to see what all the fuss is about. Someone close to me recently said they're like Bad Boy Chiller Crew but political. Now, I up until like maybe 6 months ago, I thought they were a rock band, and then I heard their song. The first time I heard Kneecap was this year when a DJ at Slam Dunk played them. I was like, oh my God, what's this? It sounds amazing. And they're like, oh, it's Kneecap. So I've been listening to a bit of Kneecap, and I think that they seem really good. I really do want to go and see what they're all about, and I want to like it, and I'm sure I will. I like what I've heard, and I'd love to see them at their own headline. As I say, I was meant to see them headlining at the Barrowlands yesterday, but scheduling conflicts. So big up Kneecap. There's some other names on there as well, but I don't really have any value to add with those. So overall, I'm in a good mood with this. I think they've done a good job. I think setting my expectations so low and then delivering 4 more headliners than I expected, including 2, some of my favourite artists. You can't argue. Now, again, I do want to lean onto the fact that, like, there is no Glastonbury. Reading and Leeds did have potentially an opportunity to book quadruple A size talent, and they've not done that. But I am happy with this. I think it's good news from me. This is a relatively small sample of what's generally like a 100 bands. So there's certainly more that we're going to be seeing. Personally, what would I like to see? Well, it probably won't surprise you, but I think some decent guesses would be, I'm certain we're probably going to get Don Broco. I think we're probably going to get some kind of metal representation in some capacity, whether that's something like a new metal type band. I think, Reading and Leeds at the minute, it seems to be kind of going for just quite diverse lineups. Like there was significant representation of all genres last year, it felt. So I would be surprised if we don't get like some heavier music announced as well. I think they've got to do that, and I think Broco could be a good move to like head up that. It'd be interesting to see if the BBC thing is true. We'll know by the time they announce the full lineup, and if there's no like BBC introducing or Radio 1 stage or whatever. Again, but that might be just bollocks. I'm not sure. I feel like there's been a fundamental shift in Reading and Leeds for the last 2 years. I think in 2024, I feel like they really kind of dropped the ball. There was a bit too much over-innovating, trying to go on, adding all these new stages and all this stuff that, as someone with their feet on the ground and who speaks to, hundreds to thousands of punters, focusing on a lot of stuff that I just don't really think anyone cares about. The Orcs stage, the experiences, the kind of sort of theme camping. I really don't think that that's a good place to channel your innovations. They know best, obviously, so they might have way better data than I do. In fact, I'm sure they will. But yeah, I think we did start to see a downfall of this festival in 2004. Doesn't help that, 2024. Doesn't help that because of the weather, everything got cancelled pretty much. It was a bit of a shambles. And then last year, I think the ball continued to drop. The camping was reduced significantly. The vibe of the festival, we was only there for one day last year, but we did have a lot of friends on site, both in an official and an unofficial capacity. And the general feedback that we were getting, because I was, upset to not be at Leeds, so I was kind of sourcing as much feedback and information as possible. And the general vibe was like, it's just not there, like it's lost something. It doesn't have the same feeling. The camping is reduced massively. The budget was blown with Travis Scott. I don't know how true that is. I'm sure it's not strictly true, but it has, I would say, almost measurably been on a downward trajectory. From the small sample size that I've got. I think with this year, you're going to have a lot of people saying that it's continuing down that road, but I disagree. I think this is a better lineup than last year and a better lineup than even the year before. I'm legitimately happy with this. We will be returning to Bramham Park. I would love to get involved. I was going to say I'd definitely enter the conversation about us returning to Piccadilly, but I don't want to be clashing with Kasabian, so maybe that's best saved for another year. But that's kind of all I've got. I love Leeds Fest. I love Festival Republic. The people that put on this festival have done more for me, both professionally and for my soul, that I can possibly state. This festival is everything to me, and I take it deeply personally when I see it kind of not delivering like it has in the last couple of years. But I'm ready for this to deliver, and I have no agenda. There is no reason for me to say anything is good if I don't truly believe it. I will speak truthfully. That's what we do at TPD TV. We tell you how it is. We've got no agenda. We're not going to say something to save face or to maintain relationships, because integrity comes first. So I wouldn't be saying anything I've said about this if it wasn't my own individual opinion. I'm now going to jump into the group chat and see what everyone else says. But I think this is good, guys. My two biggest complaints for this, I don't really like the new logo, and Pepsi's not okay, but I'm happy with this, so let's keep this positivity rolling. Have a great fucking week. Big up Reading and Leeds. And Reading and Leeds forever. Time for me to go to Glasgow. I might see you at the Don Broco concert tonight. If you do, say hello. It'd be lovely to meet you. I'm doing like a little residency in Glasgow. I've got concerts all week, so very blessed to do that. So I will love you and leave you. This has been a special bulletin. Normal programming with me and Matty Bridie will resume in 2 days on the Wednesday. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.